So tonight we're gonna, let me just ask a question before I kind of get into the material. How many of you already have podcasts? Okay, that's actually great. That's perfect for us. If you want to have a podcast, by the time you leave here tonight, you can have a podcast. What I have found in teaching podcasting classes and in talking to people about podcasting is that the biggest hurdle for most folks when they think about, they think, oh, well, I have stuff I'd like to talk about. I have stories I'd like to tell. I have, things that I think the community would be interested in. I would love to, hey, Chasten, how are you? I would love to, publish around the world immediately. I would love to push a button and have my voice be available everywhere around the globe immediately with no gatekeepers, right? I work in publishing, I deal with publishers all the time. So many gatekeepers, you can't believe it. And in podcasting, there are no, hey, Laura, yeah, come on in, you're fine. In podcasting, there are no gatekeepers. Whatever you want your podcast to be, or many podcasts to be, you can do that. But what keeps most people from doing it, I think, is not a lack of content or a lack of desire, but it seems to be sort of that first speed bump of, like, what is a podcast? When I record it, where does it go? How do I tell Tim Apple that I have a podcast, right? So that he will have people listen to it, right? This seems to me to be the great difficulty. And once it turns out it's not actually that hard to cross that speed bump, but once you help people get over that speed bump, they're off and running. Once they get one episode and they can go to, Spotify, say, and you should be up on Spotify by dinner time tonight, if you want to be, and then we'll go out from there, but you can send your friends to Spotify. Once people do that, then they start banging out episodes, and they have a whole show, and then they have two shows, and their friends are doing shows, and their friends are coming in. So nobody here has a podcast, but how many of you have a podcast idea, or even just a title? Yeah, anything like that. Right, so most folks, yeah? And so this is where you get to sort of make that thing real, yeah? And I am actually going to turn it over pretty soon to my graduate students. And the first one I'll introduce you to, and she's going to kind of walk you through the steps of creating a podcast channel for yourself, because she's very experienced at doing that. This is Mandy Jordan. Mandy was an undergraduate at SIU and is now a third-year MFA student in our fiction program. She's working on her thesis. She was also the first student in the fiction program once we got the podcasting lab up and running. She was the first person to mount her own podcast, to get it propagated out. And now, is the final episode up, or is it still coming? Still coming. And so she now has one of her novels fully serialized in audio production it's on everything, right? It's on Spotify, it's on Podbean, it's on Stitcher, it's on Apple iTunes podcasts. It's called Shadows of the Mind, right? And so she's a very experienced podcaster. She's also the winner this summer of a thing called the Miller Audio Prize, which is given by the Missouri Review. And if you know the world of literary reviews at all, it's one of the best and longest running, most reputable literary magazines in the country, Missouri Review. It is also, we believe, and to our knowledge, no one has contradicted us on this claim yet, so I say it is true, Mandy's piece that won the Miller Audio Prize for fiction in Missouri Review was the first piece of science fiction ever published in Missouri Review. So she's kind of broken through in that way as well. Another student in our MFA program was a runner-up in humor. So this is an area where, because there are no gatekeepers and because it's relatively new, you can break through quite quickly. You can really make your own career. A year ago, what did you know about podcasts a year ago? Nothing. Literally nothing, right? Now you have a podcast running, you're a prize winner at a major magazine. This is not something that's going to take you years and years to develop, right? So we're just going to walk you through absolutely bare bones. Does everybody have a phone with them? Right? Most teachers in most classes, they'll say, take out your phone and turn it off. I want you to make sure you have your phone on. and either be hooked up to data or the local Wi-Fi. And go to, if you're on Apple, if you're on an iPhone, go to the App Store. If you're on Google, go to whatever Google calls the App Store. What do they call the App Store?
Google Play.
Okay, Google Play. You're our Google guy. We don't know anything about Google. All right, let's see. We'll get you hooked up here. I'm going to unplug this just so you don't have.
Should I take them to the App Store first, or?
Everybody can get to the App Store, right?
Show them the app.
Yeah? All right, so what I want you to do is type in the word Anchor, A-N-C-H-O-R, and download that app. And this is what it will look like. I hope it won't take too long to come down. And it says the easiest way to make a podcast ever, and they're not kidding. And it's absolutely free. I'm sorry?
So you want to install?
Yeah, pull it down to your phone. I mean, and obviously you don't have to do that, but if you want to have a podcast up and running before you leave here this evening, this is the quickest way to do it. And who knows what your podcast will sound like, right? This is just a proof of concept. This is just for you to prove to yourself that this is really easy to do. So that when you wake up tomorrow and you go, this is the thing I want to talk about today, you'll be ready to do it. This is an absolutely turnkey solution. And don't tell anybody, because otherwise my job as a professor of podcasting stops paying checks, right? If it turns out that if you tell people that my job consists of saying, download Anchor, do what it says, right? I'm out of a gig. So don't do me that way. And just as folks get it downloaded, kind of, if you can kind of indicate, is it coming down reasonably fast?
Yeah.
It's ready to open.
Okay. Yeah, and when it's down, just go ahead and boot it up, and the page that you get should look like this. You're not doing this, Greg? You're not going to create Cast and Cast right in front of us?
My phone has too much data. I need to delete an app in order to install that.
Okay.
I'll go through my apps when I get home.
Okay. Well, you know where I am. You can always find me, and I could say to you, download Anchor, do what it says.
I tried.
Okay. Okay, has it downloaded for most folks? Yeah, ready to go? Okay, you've got this screen here. Mandy, take them through it.
You guys are going to want to sign up. You can either use Facebook or with your email, but it's just going to ask you for your name, email, and a password. After you've gotten signed up, then you can, I'm going to have to go through the login instead.
So now you're making yourself an account on Anchor. And Anchor is a podcasting hosting and propagation service. What they will do is when you record your podcast, right, which is just an audio show, your phone will upload it to Anchor's servers, right, computers that are, in great refrigerated buildings elsewhere, and they will store the data there. And they will take the name that you put on it, the image that you put with it, and those sorts of things, and begin to propagate it out to other services. They're very closely tied to Spotify, so it'll go to Spotify almost immediately. Apple's taking forever, it seems like. How long does Apple take?
With my podcast, it took Apple about a week. The one that we're trying to do for the program, they still haven't gotten back to me, and it's been at least 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah, it just takes a while. So some are faster than others, but that is what Anchor does, is it hosts for free your podcasts, and it sends them out to all the podcasting services. Does anybody here use something other than Apple iTunes or Apple Podcast or the Google? What is the Google version of it?
Google Music.
Okay, Google Music does that? Okay. Does anybody use Stitcher or Podbean or?
I listen to my podcast on Spotify and SoundCloud.
Spotify, okay. And SoundCloud, I don't think it goes automatically to SoundCloud, but SoundCloud's actually quite easy. But Spotify is where you'll find your own later today. Are we ready to go?
I think so. Okay, so it's going to show you the steps they should be cycling through on your phone, but you're going to be able to record or import the audio. Usually I will import it through a file that I've made on Audacity, which Dylan's going to show.
Right, we'll talk about that in just a little bit.
But I'll show you how you can record it on your phone and then import it. And then you can build it out of those segments and then distribute through the app. So
Right, and so the only equipment that you're going to use, and we have all this equipment out here, which we bought for fabulous sums of money for the podcasting lab, but literally your phone is all you need and all you will ever need to make a podcast. We're going to show you how to record your audio for your podcast using your phone. We're not going to get into it tonight, but you can actually edit sound on your phone. You can edit your episode and pull pieces of your episode together, and you can Anchor has music that you can add and so on and so forth. But Dylan is actually going to show us a little more complicated, a little more sophisticated editing in just a little bit, and that you do on your laptop. And go ahead, Manny.
if you click on the plus sign for tools, it'll pull up the microphone so you can record.
Okay, so is everybody at this stage? Are we?
Says, I want to make a new podcast, tell me more about podcasting. So did you already, did I miss that?
It didn't come up on.
Just click, I want to make a new podcast. That should do it. Yeah, so this is where you want to be.
And you can see at the bottom, you can bring in stuff from your voice message apps and your library on your phone and things like that.
Right, so if you don't want to deal with the Anchor app, you can pull up your voice messaging app and just record your episode there, and and the Anchor app makes it very easy to pull in those things. And where else can it pull from on your phone, Mandy?
Just your libraries, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, great.
But for instance, if we wanted to just, see, you're holding a podcast mic. Okay. To enable your microphone, you're going to record it.
And this is Apple, but I'm assuming that the Android is quite similar?
And it's
Man, I
recorded.
see you have lab on. Is that what you typically use to record, or are you just?
No, this is just for,
This is for Todd. Todd wired us up so that he could get a recording of this. And we can talk more about the sort of the equipment we use, and I'll talk about this, for instance, which is a really great, accessible little portable recorder if you want to get more serious and start doing interviews and things like that. But so
this has just been recording while we were talking, so now we have an audio clip.
this is Apple, but I'm assuming the Android is quite similar.
And that was just recording from a distance without having it up to.
Right, and they're actually, you will be surprised at the quality of your microphone if you will not hold it so much like you do a phone, but hold it to your mouth like this. You will be surprised at the quality of audio that you can get. What you want to be not in a room like this, right, with a high ceiling and with a lot of flat spaces and things like that. If you can, I mean, you can build like a pillow fort in your house or something, right? And a pillow fort in your house, or get under a blanket, or if you have a closet that's full of clothes, but a lot, soft surfaces that absorb sound and things like that. That's perfectly fine, right? You don't have to say in your podcast, "I'm in my pillow fort," although that's a podcast I would absolutely listen to. But nobody can see you. So it doesn't matter what it looks like. You just want to get soft surfaces so you're not getting a lot of bounce and echo. You can hear how the acoustics are, right? But this is really a very serviceable microphone for an audio-only podcast, for your Things I Hate About the World podcast, right? You just get on there and yell into your microphone. It'll work great.
I'm going to try to do a test where I'm speaking more directly into the phone to see what the audio quality sounds like. I'm going to try to do a test where I'm speaking more directly into the phone to see what the audio quality sounds like. But I mean, that's just from the phone. So
Right.
it's already decently clear, I think.
Yep.
And then you hit save, and no, I'm not ready to publish this yet.
It is okay. So let's take a moment, and I want you all now just hit the record button and talk for 30 seconds into your phone. Just talk right into the mic. Hold the phone up so they can see kind of what the position is. If you're at that stage, go ahead and go. Just all at once. That makes me so happy you can't imagine it. I actually want a podcast that is just audio of roomfuls of people making their first podcast episodes all at the same time. That would be a great podcast, right? We just use the shotgun mic and sweep it over everybody, because that was such a great sound, right? This sort of murmuring coming up. Okay, so hit the stop button, yeah, if you have not already. And now you have audio, right? And now, believe it or not, you now have your first podcast episode. That's how it happens. What you've just done is recorded your first podcast episode. Okay, so you want to take them through the rest of it?
And if you wanted to add additional clips to that too, you can bring in, you're gonna see that brought that into my library on Anchor. So I could make another clip and then I could bring it in to the episode from there. But for right now,
Hit save to get to that part.
yeah. Then here it'll give you, options of things that you can do if you tap the ellipsis next to the clip.
Yeah, why don't you can you add some background music?
Sure.
Just so folks can see. And they give you a selection. This is all royalty-free background music. So there's your NPR, right? This is your NPR sound. Yeah, exactly. You know, this is Cass and Quest. Cass and Cast, that's what we decided. I gotta stop hitting this microphone. Sorry, Todd.
And just like all of these.
Yeah, I love anytime I hear them, I'm like, that's my theme music. Then I'll play another one and I'm like, that's my theme music. I'm really easy to please that way, I guess.
It's loading.
Okay, there it is.
I'm gonna try to do a test where I'm speaking more.
And it ducks the music underneath your voice. And then it brings it back up when you're quiet. Yeah, does that perfectly automatically. You don't have to do any of that yourself. But you can bring in your own music. You can pull music down from SoundCloud, whatever sources you get, so you can do anything you want, but that's already built in if you just want a turnkey push button solution. So now,
I just clicked rename segment.
right, and you can give it any, and the segments though are different from the right. So this is actually you combine many segments into one episode, but that's a more sophisticated. Once you get this up and running, you can investigate that on your own, and you'll find it as turnkey and as easy as the rest of this. But for now, we're just saying that murmuring that you just recorded, that's your whole episode, not just a segment of an episode. So if you want, put some background music behind it. Why don't you just play around with that for a minute? See if you can find some background music that makes you sound like you're recording in the studios of a public radio station. There you go. Funky.
How do we get the background music?
Click right here.
Add to episode?
Now you did it through all of my.
Oh, here, just add that one.
Just the sounds of people making podcasts is fun. And podcasting, by the way, I will tell you, it is so much fun, right? However much fun you think it's going to be when you start putting your episodes up, and you're going to get into it, and you're going to start editing, you're going to start doing these tenth of a second edits and stuff like that, and you're going to go, no, that music's not quite right, that transition isn't exactly it. It really is addictive, isn't it, Mandy? It's so much fun. And when we get into the editing stuff here in a couple of minutes, you'll see how much fun editing sound can be, and it's just a blast. So I expect you all to send me the link to your successful podcast, please. When it's up and running, I really do want to hear those. Okay.
And if you go to details, it should give you the option to update your episode title and description.
Right, and this is just where you say the name of the episode and then what the episode is.
Is that when you hit save? Is that when it went to that?
1 second. To back up.
You're right there.
Details.
Details.
Does everybody see that on the page?
Yes, I read it. Oh, it's not.
Because I think I might have told them wrong whenever it said name. I think it wants the podcast name, not their name. But I didn't try to
Well,
figure
their
it out.
podcast can have their name.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so now,
If you click over on your podcast, it'll have your draft of this episode too.
and you can enable monetization, right? And they'll match you with, they'll just sort of put ads on and in your podcast. If you think you're going to have 1 million listeners and you want to make a pile of dough from it. I've never done that. Have you monetized any of these?
I've looked into it. The first one, they wanted me to record an ad for Anchor itself, and it had to be at least 30 seconds, and I was trying to figure out a place to put it, so I haven't done that yet.
Oh, so you can actually record your own ad for Anchor? Oh, well, we've got to do that. Let's make up a really wild ad for Anchor. Did they tell you what the text has to be?
A couple things to include.
Can we put screaming in the background?
I believe so.
Okay, let's do that. Oh, we're gonna make a bundle.
Yes.
All right, so, but yeah, skip monetization for the moment, I would advise.
And if I can,
So, but you can activate them.
it'll show you, yeah, the ad has to be at least 30 seconds long, wants to encourage people.
Encourage your audience to make their own podcast using Anchor. Well, that's what I do. Why aren't they paying me? I don't know. I guess maybe the university is, so that could be it.
Yeah. There are key points that they require you to mention, and only bold parts of the script are mandatory.
Oh, so we are so making a whole bunch of these ads.
Yes. One
Yeah.
for each podcast.
Yeah, let's see if we can get banned from Anchor for our ads.
If I can, yeah. It won't activate until we record the ad, I don't think.
Okay.
But not right now, thank you. But theoretically, if we had money in our wallet, we could cash out after making it from the ads.
Yeah, see? This is your next career right here. Okay, go on.
You can also, while you're on Anchor, if you go down to Discover at the bottom, you can see other podcasts that are hosted here. For example, mine would be on here.
Yeah, show them Shadows of the Mind.
How'd you do that?
Click Discover at the bottom. Down at the bottom of your screen, it'll be Discover Tools in your podcast. But this is,
So we close the Anchor and then we get this?
it's in Anchor,
Okay.
just at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, so they're just showing you other podcasts that are hosted on Anchor. Do you have yours up there?
Yep.
And so on Anchor, but it's also, you can find this on whatever podcast program you listen to, Shadows of the Mind by Mandy Jordan. And there it is. And this is her serialized science fiction novel that is up on the web now. And you should, if you look for, can you look for Fugitive Voices?
Yes.
Yeah, there it is. And this is Fugitive Voices, which is it's a podcast I do for an independent publisher in Georgia called SFK Press. And I talked to, this is the first season of it. We've just started the second season. And it is a co-host who's the associate publisher there. And I talk to their authors. We talk to their book designer. We talk to a whole bunch of people who are in the business and that kind of thing. And season 2, I'm actually doing with the publisher at SFK Press. So, and that's Fugitive Voices. And we're doing that through Anchor as well. So, okay. All right. So, are you going to publish now?
No.
No. Okay. I'm just so excited. Publish.
But it's just me talking about testing it.
Well, all right. Well, then show them how to publish. I still think you should publish it. And you'll need, yeah.
You can customize.
You'll need an image, right? So just take a picture of your bright and smiling face, or take a picture of one of these amazing tables.
Just click publish on your episodes page.
And you use the cover of your book.
Yeah.
And it's a square format. So you know, if you want to make a logo on Canva, if people know Canva, it's a great little designing program. Web-based, and you'll be able to make a neat little square graphic for yourself, and you can use that as the image for the podcast. Then the title, or you know, any picture you want to take with your phone, or a picture that you already have on your phone. And you can choose to publish on a particular date too. So like if you've got 10 episodes lined up, and I advise you before you start a podcast, pick a day. If you're doing a weekly podcast or whatever, pick a day. Like it's gonna be Wednesday at 8 p.m. You're always gonna have an episode up, and always hit that time and have a bunch of episodes laid out so that you're not scrambling every week to try to get the episode out, and so nothing slides to Thursday or Friday. Because if you become part of people's lives, like if I get used to, I'm like, okay, this goes up 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Thursday morning as I'm going into work, I'm gonna listen to that show, and if you get me addicted to that, I'll always do it. But if you start dropping out, you make me angry. Right? And so, no, I mean, and it's just how you get to be a part of somebody's life, right? In this way. And if you do 15 minutes every week and people just get used to listening to it, you become part of their lives. But you have to hit that. And it's weird how angry people will get if you don't give them something free. Like you want to say like, well, you know, like you're not paying me exactly, but really they'll be really mad if you don't do it. So do a bunch of them, and then you can just set the publishing dates for right when you want it to drop every week. Yes.
Two questions. One is, how long should it be, the little podcast segment, to be
However long. The Joe Rogan's podcast, he does 3-hour long form interviews. The Daily Poetry podcast is about 7 minutes every morning, in which a guy reads a classic poem, talks about it for 2 minutes, and then reads it again. Okay. Whatever length you want it to be, whatever year. That's the great thing about this. Nobody actually knows what this is yet, right? We've never encountered this before, except like radio drama in the 20s and 30s, which was quickly replaced by television. And this is actually very different from that. This is utterly democratic, right? It's one of the things I love about this, is that this is the voice of the people, right? You get to do whatever you want to do. And if nobody wants to listen to you, that's their choice too, right? Yes?
And putting a picture in there, my picture's sideways. Is there a way to edit the picture on?
Probably through Anchor.
Yeah.
Like if you go to your gallery where it's not, like let's say you have a picture that's sideways.
Well, the picture's correct in my gallery.
Right. So
But yeah,
and take a screenshot of it, and then go back in and go to your images and go to screenshots, and then you're gonna have that it's already horizontal, and I would just upload your screenshot of horizontal instead of the one that you're phoning up.
Anchor itself doesn't have anything.
Yeah, they're not, they aren't. Okay, I keep hitting the mic, Todd. I'm really sorry. I hope you have something that can cure that, besides just cutting my hand off. Okay. Are we ready to publish?
Sure.
And now you add tags, right? And tags are just search terms that people can look for your podcast. Cats is a good one. But yeah, whatever describes your podcast. News, commentary, rage, anything that you think encompasses what you're doing. And the more of them you can put up to 5, and the more, I'd go to your maximum, because that broadens the possibility that somebody's going to find your podcast. We need to get to Dylan. I'm sorry, I've talked too much as usual.
And then I'll skip tags and then name the podcast, which will be,
Right, whatever you want to call it, like Cat Rage, we'll call it. I bet Cat Rage would get a pretty good audience, don't you think, if we had a good picture? Yeah, of course. Cat Rage, who wouldn't? Welcome to Cat Rage. Yeah, there we go. So, and there's your cover art.
This is a different photo.
Well, because that was an episode image, right? And this is an image for the overall podcast, and those can be, you can have different images for the episodes and for the podcast. Cats. Categories, cats.
Trying to find cat.
But you can see all of the different categories that they have here, and this is all the different art that you have. There's all the pieces that you need are built in.
Except cats.
Except cats. Man, that's just wrong. We'll just pick any random thing here.
Comedy.
That too.
There we go.
There's comedy.
Comedy, improv. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, my whole life. We're finishing your podcast setup, and there's your cat, and your cat is soon going to be available on all of those sources. So
all right.
there you go. And then you hit great thanks, and you now have a podcast. So everybody just go ahead and do that if you haven't done it already. Go ahead and publish it.
It won't do this to you. It's just doing this because I gave it a fake title. It's
Oh, yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. If you've given your episode a real title, whatever, like, I poke a cat with a stick or whatever it is. Okay? Heads up, they may reject your podcast. All right, so is everybody good? Yeah? All right, so you now have your first episode podcast. The second one is 10 times easier, I promise, right? And now that the mechanics are done, all the content is up to you. That has to come from you, but you have no excuse now, right? You can't tell people, I got a great idea for a podcast. If only I knew how to do it. If only I had a podcast to put my rage about cats on, right? You don't have that excuse anymore. Your only excuse now is, I haven't hit that button yet, right? And not having an excuse, for me at least, that's a great motivator. Like, I love excuses, and when I run out of them, that's when I actually do stuff. Okay? So Dylan, I'm sorry we ate up so much of your time, but you wanna what Dylan's gonna do is demonstrate a program called Audacity. Some of you may be familiar with it, but if you have a laptop, download Audacity. What's the website they want to go to? Is it audacity.org?
I think it's just audacity.org, yeah, and it'll link you out of audacity.org anyway. But Googling Audacity will be enough to find it.
Yeah, this is a very widespread program. This is probably the most widely used digital audio workstation program in the world. And it's free. It's completely 100% free. And if you have a podcast that's more complicated than what Audacity can do, then you're way more complicated than we are, because in a year of podcasting now, have we ever had a project that Audacity couldn't handle? No. Yeah, so if you want to get more sophisticated than just what you can do on the Anchor app on your phone or on your PC, right? And you can also access Anchor on your PC or on your laptop, right? It's anchor.fm, and it'll have everything that you have on your app, so you can do it that way too. But if you download this, this is where you'll make the audio that you upload to Anchor if you want to get more complicated than just talking into your phone. Right? And this is audio you can make on your laptop, talking into your laptop mic, or you can get more sophisticated setups like these setups. But go ahead.
Yeah, so Audacity is, like Pinky said, it's just the second most turnkey thing I think about podcast development after Anchor. Essentially, it's an open source program that's regularly updated by just the community who work on it. And as Pinky was also saying, we have never found a project that needs more than this. This is about as powerful as we need to get. And this works pretty modularly with just about any equipment you would use. You can use a USB microphone, or like Pinky was also saying, we can use some of the higher end equipment. But for now, I'm just going to show you 2 quick examples. So this is the basic interface of Anchor. You have some basic tools like selection.
Audacity.
Movement. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They
There's a lot.
no, believe me. Yeah. No, I Anchor Audacity. I don't know.
So the most basic thing you do is hit record. And I can talk into the microphone. My microphone's not very good on my laptop. And now you can see the waveform, right? And then you can play this back. And I can talk into the microphone. My microphone's not very good on my laptop. Yeah. So with some very, very, very basic tools like amplification, you can turn your audio up. So now we can hear me talking this way. I can talk into the microphone. My microphone's not. Yeah, like that, right? Yeah, one of the things if you start podcasting, you'll learn to become comfortable with the sound of your own voice.
And it will make you a much better writer, by the way, just from the point of view of creative writing. Hearing your own work, hearing your own words in your ear, it's the best editor you can get. Again, don't tell people that because then I would be out of a gig. But if you will read all of your work aloud, you will instantly become a much better writer.
Right. And so some other things you can do to play with audio, that's one of my favorite things to do as a fiction writer, is mess around with the audio itself to see what kinds of things I can make. So you can change the pitch of the voice. I changed mine down. My microphone's not very good on my laptop.
Wow, you sound so manly.
Earlier, man.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Wow, I like that, Dylan.
Or I can increase the speed.
And I can talk into the microphone. My microphone's not very good on my laptop.
Yeah.
Would you be able to pick out these certain sections that you would want to have like, higher or lower sound?
Yeah. So like, for example, this highlighted section I have right here.
So just like manipulate the voice?
Yeah, so we can change the speed so it's ridiculous right here, right? So it'll sound normal. And I can talk into the microphone.
My microphone's not very good on my laptop.
Yeah, right. So it's pretty simple in terms of, and powerful in terms of what it's going to do. The other things that you can do, and this is something I've been working on recently because as a fiction writer, I've been trying to figure out new ways to create voices in as many different ways as I can because I only have me and I don't do a very good impression of a woman. Or a female voice. And so one of the things I've been doing is there's a character in one of my short stories that I'm adapting into a podcast. It's a robot that's made by a Chinese manufacturer, and it has recently gained consciousness. And so by switching over to these settings, I think this will work. I had it set up earlier, but I just went to a simple text-to-speech editor, or text-to-speech thing. Yeah, it's not working. Of course. One moment. This is also something you'll get used to.
Yeah, if you do tech, and particularly tech in front of other people,
Right.
this inevitably happens. Is you have everything set up, and then suddenly nothing's working, and you can't figure out why.
By the way, on my Apple computer, they have a program called GarageBand.
Yeah, GarageBand's also terrific, and GarageBand has a lot of built-in stuff. If you look, there are voice sweeteners that you can use for podcasting, things that compress the voice and stuff like that quite automatically. GarageBand is if you use Apple products, GarageBand is a terrific tool, and GarageBand's also on your phone if you have an iPhone. And so if you want to use an external recorder and you're used to using GarageBand or you just like GarageBand, it's a brilliant choice. This just happens to be free and it's available on all, I know GarageBand is also free, but this is available on all platforms. So you can get this on Linux, you can get it on Apple, you can get it on Microsoft, any operating system.
Yeah. So do you transfer the the podcasts from your phone, if you're doing it from your phone to the computer?
Yeah. So that's something you could do is you could plug your phone in. Let's say you do the recording on your phone. You plug your phone in, pull the MP3 off your phone, drop it into Audacity, and then you're got it in the editor now.
And you can add reverb to it, you can sweeten the voice. The other thing I will tell you, because obviously we have limited time tonight, the thing about Audacity is if there's something that you want to do in Audacity, if you type that phrase and then the word Audacity into YouTube, you will find 100 tutorials. Right? And I mean, this is so widely used that giving yourself an education in Audacity is actually really easy. And so you're making a robot voice. Believe me, if you type make a robot voice into YouTube, you're going to find a lot of videos. So
That's actually how I learned.
Oh yeah, okay, great, good.
And so with this, I have it set so that it only records sounds that come from my computer.
Ooh, but I am your best friend.
Okay, so first recording didn't work, so I'm going to have to do it again. This is something that I have just been...
Ooh, but I am your best. I am your best friend.
Sorry. That sounded really wild. I don't know why it's not working now. You saw me do this. You saw me...
Yep, I sure did.
Before it started. Okay. Yes? Oh, I know why. That's why.
Oh, the HDMI? Yep.
So stand by. She's recording.
Just pretend interesting things are happening on this blank screen in front of you.
Now I got another question.
Oh, sure.
Can Anchor be loaded to a laptop?
Yes, absolutely. It's not an app for your laptop, but there is an Anchor. It is anchor.fm is the Anchor website. And when you go there, use the same login that you used to make your account on your phone, and everything that you can do on your phone will be available on the Anchor website at anchor.fm. Yes.
Once you've done editing in Audacity, what's the best format to export back?
Export to MP3. And MP3 is easily uploadable to Anchor, right? You go out to MP3, yeah. So you mix on Audacity and then go out to an MP3 and upload that to Anchor. So that's the easiest workflow to go from Audacity. And the latest versions of Audacity, it used to be hard to export to MP3 from Audacity, but make sure you have the latest version of Audacity because it can export to MP3 effortlessly.
Yeah. So this is the recording from the webpage. And of course it's now not playing through the computer.
Is just the HDMI eating you up?
Probably.
Ooh,
There we go. Okay. So that's her voice. So now to make a robot voice, this is actually just like amazingly simple after I watched a couple of YouTube videos. You can add any number of tracks to an Audacity file. The more tracks you add, the more complex your file obviously gets and the bigger and more ability it gets, but you can add as many tracks as you need to a particular project. So by doing this, we've created 2 versions of her voice speaking. Now, there's a whole list of different effects that you can add to the voices. But for now, to make a robot, I'm going to apply an echo to this one, and I'm going to change the pitch of this one down. So yeah, -2 is probably fine. And then I'm going to add an effect an echo to this one. So now there's 2 echoes on the same piece of audio, but one's pitched down and the other one's maintained at the same level.
Ooh, but I am your best friend.
And that's how you make a robot voice.
Right, there you go, robot voice. Yeah, so you see, and it really is fun. Like, I mean, just figuring out whatever you want to do, right? For your cat rage, show, figure out how to make a cat noise, right? How do you take your voice and make it sound like you think a cat would sound if it could talk, right? Anything like that, and you can just play and play and play with this, and it does not take a powerful computer. So between whatever laptop you own and your phone, you now have a complete podcast studio. And if you followed the steps we did, you now have your first episode up and in the cloud and propagating out. And if you go to Spotify, a little later this evening, you'll be able to find your podcast on Spotify. So, well, thank you all very much. I really appreciate your helping me out, and thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. And if there are questions, I mean, I don't want to keep people past the time we said we would go, but I'm also happy to take questions, and my students are happy to take questions.
Is there a way that I would be able to take my audio from the Anchor app and lay it over a video? Like if I was doing a podcast about like cat care and I was doing a video of me cutting my cat's nails, would I be able to transport that to overlay on a video?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you would just take, I mean, I would imagine that Anchor either records it as an MP3 or records it as a WAV file. So you would download that WAV file. You'd have to get a separate software. You'd have to get video editing software, like Movie Maker or Premiere.
Yeah, iMovie or whatever whatever is the standard movie maker on your software. That would almost certainly be able to do that.
And then you can drag that in also.
The episode's already on Spotify.
Oh, is it already? So if you made an episode tonight, you're probably already on Spotify. So alert all your friends that you have a mumbling 30-second long thing on Spotify. Yes.
I don't know, but like if we go or use Anchor to create a podcast, do we still have rights to our intellectual property?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's your creation. Yeah.
When you did, if you talked about uploading Anchor to your computer and doing it there, is the computer's microphone good enough to?
I would actually, my guess is for most like laptop rigs, the mic on your phone is going to be way better than the mic on your laptop. Does that comport?
Laptop microphones typically is not the microphone, it's the fan on your laptop.
Yeah, so I for recording quality, I would go with your phone over your laptop. The laptop's mainly for editing and stuff like that. It just has a bigger screen, and so it's easier to see what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Thank you all for coming. So, all right, well, thank you all very much. I appreciate your coming out. And I hope some of you will return next month for VR night. We'll be doing the same thing, except we'll all be wearing weird headsets.